Hey guys, it's Luke here with New Age Thought, and I wanted to make a video to touch on some of the recent news that's been coming out of Texas and Buffalo, these school shootings. Um, I think we can all agree that whenever there's a loss of human life, whether by natural causes or especially when another human takes the life of another, um, it's tragic. And when these things happen, there's an instinctual gut feeling, an emotional feeling that takes over, um, that unfortunately can be capitalized on. Now, hear me out. Something needs to be done about these school shootings. I think we can all agree on that. Where we really need to, the reason I'm making this video is because what I see after I see the tragedy occur, and I see what happened, what took place, and I feel mournful. 3-4 days later, maybe even not even, maybe 2, sometimes the day of, I see somebody get on the news, maybe a politician or an anti-gun control activist, and they immediately go into the rhetoric of we have to remove guns, or we have to make it more difficult for people to obtain weapons, firearms. And again, with the video I made about the Pentaveret, the show that with Austin Powers, it's one of these issues where, yeah, why would you disagree with that? The guns are killing people. If we take away the guns, then the guns can't kill people. A rifle, I don't know the weapons that were used in the shootings, and quite frankly, I really do not think it's that important. If it was a pistol, yeah, it could be concealed easier, but at the end of the day, the problem isn't the caliber of the weapon. A bullet is going to hurt and kill somebody. It's the individual who is going to that place and making a mental decision to use that tool, that weapon, to do harm to innocent people. And this is the disconnect that I think a lot of members of society and a lot of people are either deliberately overlooking or genuinely may not understand. Is like, there is a reason why we have the Second Amendment written into the Constitution of this country. And the Second Amendment doesn't really have to do with firearms per se. It does, because those were the weapons that were being used at the time that it was written. But what the Second Amendment is really about is your ability to defend yourself with whatever a government or a group or a organization, anybody who could amass weaponry and use it to essentially control you through the threat of violence or harm your family or do anything like that. The founding fathers believed in this, and many great thinkers around the world, realize that it's a natural law of nature to preserve your life and the life of those you love. For example, imagine you're going for a camping trip in the woods, right? And, you're with the wife, you're with the kids, maybe even your dog, and, your iPhone, your battery dies, you don't have GPS, you don't know where the car is, and you're stuck. You're stuck in the jungle for a couple days, okay? You have the right to pick up a stick and whatever you got in your pocket, maybe your keys or something, sharpen it into a point and carry it around with you, because guess what? There are bobcats around and they'll fuck you up. A bobcat will fuck you up. People don't realize how strong a bobcat is, but that's besides the point. You carry that sharpened stick not to go around to hurt people. You use it to defend yourself and those that you love if a threat advances to you. It can also be used for the provision of food, right? So if you need to make sure your family can eat in the setting of nature, you can, nature has given us abundant gifts, and the cycle of life is such that it is okay to take an animal's life to sustain your own. It happens in nature all the time. Look at lions, look at pretty much any carnivore. And they're not evil creatures. That's just the way nature works. So now what you don't see is a lion. I mean, maybe this happens, but you don't see it. Is an animal or a predator going around and just recklessly using its claws and teeth to kill other lions out of pure rage. I'm sure that does actually happen sometimes, but it's an exception, not the rule. Whether you're a human with a firearm or whether you're a lion with a powerful set of jaws and teeth, it's your mind and the way you use that power which dictates what it's all about. So, let me tell you something. It is a natural law of this universe to be able to defend yourself. And if we live in an age where there are firearms, because we're not going to, you could try to ban firearms, but as everybody knows, there's still millions, if not maybe billion, I don't know, millions of firearms in circulation around the world. You could get them in Africa, you could get them in the Middle East, in America, in any country. Doesn't matter if they're legal or not. If people want to get their hands on guns, they'll get their hands on guns. So to me, if we take away guns or we make more restrictive measures to get a gun, yes, that 0.05 out of 10 chance that we're making it harder or we're preventing that person who is got something going on mentally from getting it, that's great. But for the other 9.5 people, or 95% of people, you are robbing them of their right to defend their family and the ones that they love. So I'm a legal firearm owner. I went to get qualified for a pistol. You need more qualification for a pistol because it can be concealed more easily. A lot of people want to talk about the AR-15s, the AK-47s, the assault rifles, right? And yes, these are powerful weapons. And believe it or not, in a lot of states, you can actually buy a rifle like that easier than you can buy a pistol. That's the truth. A shotgun or a rifle you can buy, because in many areas, when you buy a shotgun or a rifle, you are using it to maybe go hunting, or you have a bunch of property that you need to defend. So it's not looked at as like, well, if you live in Wyoming and you have a ranch, if you go to buy a rifle to protect your cattle or whatever, it's like, it would be ridiculous to make all these ranchers go through ridiculous background checks and wait months and months just to get basic tools to maintain their land. The other thing is, if something happens out there, guess what? You can call the police, but the police are not going to get there in time. So, as a man or a woman, violence happens swiftly and quickly. It's harsh, it's precise, and it's often over before you even know it. So perception is really half of the battle, is being aware of your surroundings. But But if you're aware of your surroundings, but you don't really have the tools to defend yourself, whether that's being trained in hand-to-hand defense or have a firearm, then you're screwed. And so, like I said, I'm a legal firearm owner. I live in Maryland. That's my permanent residence. In Maryland, you have to get, so let me explain to you just the process of getting a pistol in Maryland. Let's say I feel that my life is being threatened. I feel that there's somebody who has a firearm, didn't get it legally, and is threatening my life or my safety or the people who I love's safety with this firearm or threatening to use it against me. So I decide I want to get my own firearm to keep on my person. And in the case that something does happen, I have the ability to defend myself. In Maryland, you go into a gun store, you sign your name down for a class, a certification class. So from the time you sign your name down, and then you have to wait about maybe 2 to 7 days for that class to commence, maybe even 2 weeks in some cases. So you need a pistol today. And you got to go in. Now, I'm okay with this. Hear me out. But I'm just saying, you need a pistol today. And you got to go in and you got to sign up for the class. And you're not walking out of there with a pistol. I mean, you might be able to walk out of there with a rifle. But the thing is, you can't really take a rifle in your car. Or, I mean, it's one thing if you're being charged at from a field 100 yards away. But in most situations, you need something small. And concealable, because you also don't want people to see that you have a firearm, out of respect. They shouldn't have to see that. And you know what I mean? If a mom is going food shopping, but you're carrying a concealed carry weapon, nobody should know that you have that on you. So then you get the class, you get certified. That class takes about it's a full day. They go over all the malfunctions. All the different types of pistols. You have revolvers, how revolvers work. You have striker fire handguns, semi-automatic handguns with a hammer. We go over, what happens if there's a bullet or a round stuck in the chamber. How do you safely, basically everything you need to know to operate a pistol safely. So then you get certified, okay? Then I have to send the certification. I've taken the class. I've been taught everything I need to know. I've even shot at the end of the class a pistol. Sometimes they use a replica or a real pistol to go over what you've been taught. So I've been taught gun safety. Then I've been supervised by a range safety official to shoot that gun and pass the course. After that, I still can't buy a pistol. I have to send my certificate from that class, okay, to the Maryland or whatever county I'm in Maryland, state police office. From there, it is normally a 1 to even 2 or 3 month waiting period, depending on your record or any type of the reasoning that you want it. So I went through the class. I learned how to do it. Simply, believe it or not, if you just said, I want a handgun to defend myself, a lot of times that will work, but it's almost like they want something more. They're like, are you an entrepreneur? Are you carrying large, sums of money around personally? What's the nature of your work? Where do you live? It's like at least in Maryland, this is not how it is in other states, but in states that tend to have tighter gun laws, it's almost like you need to have some other reason besides just wanting to preserve your own life or the lives of the ones you love the most. So I waited over a month. Now keep in mind, if I needed a pistol to defend myself that day, it would have been too late. I could have gone to the gun store and been like, guys, I'm in trouble. I need to buy a handgun. We live in a real world, and there's a situation that I need to handle. and just be ready to defend myself if I have to. And they can't help me legally. And I could go home, go about my day. Guess what happens, right? We don't have to end, that's it for me. And so what that creates is when somebody is truly in a situation like that, and it's not super common, but it happens more often than you think. When somebody's in a situation like that, and you can't legally go to get a firearm in a reasonable amount of time, you feel forced to want to do it illegally. You feel like, man, I can't wait around. I better, like, maybe I can ask like an uncle or a brother or a friend of mine, like, hey man, I need to borrow your pistol or something, which is not how it should be done. That's illegal. You can't do that. But the laws are making it so that good people who simply want to defend themselves can't do that. Now, the same person who shot those schools I believe, had bought the gun legally. It doesn't matter. He could have gone, let's say the gun laws are tighter. He's going to do exactly what a normal citizen would do, or go and try to get a gun from somebody else, or have it borrowed to him or whatever. So really what I'm getting at is, if I don't mind having a background check. Like, if you're going to carry a deadly weapon, something that has the force and the power to take a human life. When you shoot a gun, it's a very, you really, when you start really shooting and you've gone and you've shot and you've trained multiple times, you truly understand just what that would do to your body, just the pure violence that it can cause. And you should absolutely have to be certified and have training in order to get it, or definitely have some sort of background check, okay? Depending on where you live, I think laws should be a little bit less lenient and more lenient, depending if you're living in a more populated area, where, like a city where there's a lot of inner city crime. You'll probably need a pistol, honestly, even more in a place like that. But the problem is here, guys, there's no one, what I'm trying to get at is there's not like really one perfect solution. And all I can say is that if we're going to make laws in this country, regardless of how devastating some of these tragedies are, and they're absolutely horrific. I mean, when a child is losing his life because of a individual who is not right, is not quite right in the head, that's as bad as it gets. I mean, that's essentially evil. That individual who did it might not be pure evil himself, but the force of evil that exists in this world was obviously using him as a vessel, right? And so that's the real issue, man. That is the real crux of it. It's not, it's the evil that makes somebody do that. They could drive a truck into a school. If we take away guns, they could use a knife. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So if we're going to make laws, we need to make them so that they apply to not the exception, but the rule, right? So if only, if let's say there's 1,000 people and one person is crazy enough to do something like that, but every other person of that 1,000 people owns the gun for the safety of their family, maybe their mothers, when their husband goes out, they've trained with a firearm so that if somebody were to come into their home or something were to happen, Mama Bear can let one rip, you know what I mean? And everything will be a happy day. Good people, right? So I'm not saying you should, every human life is sacred, but if somebody's coming in your home with intent to harm you, that's the right, at that point, you start to get forced to take a life or injure somebody. So what's happening is these tragedies are occurring. We are emotional, and during times of emotion, we are susceptible to forgetting the principles behind our laws. And because we're so emotional, we could very easily make a law that is based on the exception, not the rule, right? And this ties in with a lot of other subjects. It's not just gun violence. And, this video is about this topic. But the last thing that I'll touch on is there are certain, I don't know, I'm not saying that, obviously these tragedies occurred. But what I'm saying is you would be surprised what goes on in the world in order to achieve certain goals. And when a country like the United States is armed with the right of the Second Amendment and firearms, you have to be much more accountable as a government. Because if you're governing a country like, let's say, China, or a nation where, people can't own firearms, what the government says goes. Now, it's still pretty much that way in America, but if shit were to start getting really unruly and the government was really starting to make some decisions that were just flat out not okay, well, you have to really think twice when you have about 365 million people. I don't know what the ratio is. I would say at least 40%, if not more, own firearms. People go, oh, well, what is a firearm going to do against a tank or something? Listen, man, if a population has guns to defend itself, things are much, much more difficult. Let me just put it that way. Tyranny cannot simply roll over a population. Because if you live in a country when you don't own a gun, or you don't have the right to own a gun, the government can pretty much, or whoever's in charge can pretty much institute a policy or something that you don't like, and all you can do is really pretty much march in the streets and whine about it, which, not whine about it, but you know what I'm saying, demonstrate, which is a good thing to do. I am not saying that demonstration is not, that's obviously what that's how a peaceful society operates. We demonstrate, and if things get worse, then, then you have to be accountable, and people aren't just going to go along with rules and things that don't make sense. So all I want to say is, what's going on in this country right now has been happening. It's happening now, and it's going to happen in the future. And the narrative is always going to be, we need to take guns away. And quite frankly, I don't believe it will stop happening until I think there is a however these tragedies are occurring, they're occurring. And after they occur, there is a rhetoric of, we need to take away firearms. And I think that's clearly the wrong decision. So I just wanted to touch on that topic and really express to you guys how important I think this issue is. And when people talk about America and how we are a special country, look, we're not perfect, okay? There is a lot of crime here, but you also have to look at the size of this country, right? And what's going on, okay? Gun crime, that is. But most gun owners, legal gun owners, are not committing crimes with their guns. They're using it for self-defense. So I just wanted to make this video because it really concerns me when I see what I see in the news. Because if we lose our Second Amendment, we lose something that makes this country so special. And honest to God, there are so many amazing, beautiful countries around the world that I really would truly want to live in. And the one thing that ever sometimes holds me back from doing that is saying, would I be able to own a firearm to defend myself if I had to? Um, I, I guess because I've grown up with that right, it feels very special and sacred to me. And I know in certain countries, I'm not allowed to do that. Um, you can still defend yourself in other ways, but, um, you know, in America where there are guns, um, you deserve to have exactly what the bad guy has. So just something to think about. Anyway, guys, have a good day.